Why do you check your phone first thing in the morning, even when you promise yourself you won't? Why does that one episode on Netflix always turn into 5? Why do you feel empty even after getting exactly what you wanted? You're not weak. You're not broken. You're living in a world designed to hijack your brain's reward system. Today, we're diving into Dopamine Nation by Dr. Anna Lembke, a Stanford psychiatrist who reveals why we're all becoming addicts in the age of indulgence. This isn't just about drugs or alcohol. It's about your phone, your food, your shopping, your social media, everything that promises instant pleasure but delivers long-term pain. If you've ever felt like you can't stop scrolling, eating, buying, or binging, this next 40 minutes will change how you understand your brain and give you practical tools to reclaim control. Stay with me, because what you're about to learn could be the key to breaking free from the invisible chains of modern addiction. Part 1. Universal nature of addiction. Let me tell you about Jacob. He's a successful lawyer, married with 2 kids. He doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, never touched drugs. But Jacob is an addict. His drug of choice? His smartphone. He checks it over 200 times a day. He sleeps with it next to his pillow. He feels phantom vibrations when it's not there. His wife complains he's always distracted. His kids have stopped trying to get his attention. Jacob's story isn't unique. It's the new normal. Dr. Lembke explains that we're all struggling with some form of compulsive overconsumption. The substance varies, but the pattern is identical. We seek pleasure, develop tolerance, need more to feel the same effect, and eventually can't feel pleasure at all without our fix. Think about your own life. What can't you go a day without? Coffee? Social media? Online shopping? Video games? Work? Yes, even work can become an addiction when it's used to escape or achieve a dopamine hit, accomplishment, and praise. The world has never been more addictive. Everything is available instantly. Want food? It's delivered in minutes. Want entertainment? Thousands of shows wait at your fingertips. Want validation? Post a photo and watch the likes roll in. Want sexual stimulation? It's one click away. Our ancestors had to work for rewards. We just have to reach for our phones. This abundance isn't making us happier. Depression and anxiety rates are skyrocketing, especially in wealthy nations with the most access to pleasure. We have everything we could want, yet we're miserable. This paradox makes sense once you understand dopamine. The smartphone in your pocket is more powerful than any drug. It delivers variable ratio reinforcement, the most addictive reward schedule known to psychology. You never know when you'll get that exciting text, that funny video, that validating comment. Dopamine isn't actually the pleasure chemical. That's a common misconception. Dopamine is about wanting, not liking. It drives you to seek rewards, but it doesn't make you enjoy them. This distinction is crucial for understanding why we keep doing things that no longer make us happy. When you anticipate something pleasurable, dopamine levels rise. This creates motivation and focus. You feel excited and energized. But here's the cruel twist. The anticipation often feels better than the actual experience. Think about planning a vacation versus being on vacation, or waiting for a package versus opening it. Your brain has a baseline dopamine level, like a thermostat, set to normal. When you experience pleasure, dopamine spikes above baseline. But your brain doesn't like being out of balance. It immediately starts producing less dopamine and more of the opposing chemicals to bring you back to baseline. This is where it gets interesting. Your brain doesn't just return to baseline, in the opposite direction. After the high comes the low. After pleasure comes pain. The bigger the high, the deeper the low. The more often you spike dopamine, the lower your baseline becomes. Imagine a seesaw with pleasure on one side and pain on the other. In a healthy brain, it tips gently back and forth, maintaining balance. But when you constantly load the pleasure side with stimulation, the pain side gets heavier to compensate. Eventually, you need massive amounts of pleasure just to feel normal. This is tolerance. The same stimulus produces less effect over time. One cookie becomes 5. One episode becomes a season. One drink becomes a bottle. You're not chasing the high anymore. You're running from the low. You're not using to feel good. You're using to stop feeling bad. Dr. Lembke calls this the pleasure-pain balance. Every pleasure has an equal and opposite pain. You can't hack this system. You can't get something for nothing. Part 3. The modern addiction ecosystem. We live in what Dr. Lembke calls the dopamine economy. Every company, every app, every product is designed to spike your dopamine and keep you coming back. They hire neuroscientists and behavioral psychologists to make their products as addictive as possible. Social media platforms use intermittent variable rewards, the same principle that makes slot machines addictive. You never know when you'll get likes, comments, or shares, so you keep checking. The red notification dot is carefully designed to trigger urgency and anxiety. The pull to refresh gesture mimics a slot machine handle. Food companies engineer hyper-palatable combinations of sugar, salt, and fat that don't exist in nature. These foods override your natural satiety signals. You can eat an entire bag of chips but would struggle to eat that many potatoes. The foods are designed to hit your bliss point without triggering fullness. Streaming services use autoplay and to hijack your intentions. You meant to watch one episode, but the next one starts automatically. Each episode ends with unresolved tension, triggering the need to continue. Before you know it, it's 3 in the morning and you hate yourself. Video games use leveling systems, loot boxes, and social pressure to keep you playing. Every achievement triggers a small dopamine hit. Every level promises new rewards. Every session ends with something left undone, pulling you back. Even dating apps are designed for addiction, not connection. The swipe mechanism gamifies romance. The matches provide validation hits. The endless options prevent satisfaction with what you have. You're not looking for love. You're looking for the next dopamine spike. This isn't conspiracy theory. These companies openly discuss user engagement metrics, time on platform, and daily active users. They measure success by how much of your life they can capture. Your addiction is their business model. The painful truth about pleasure. Here's what nobody tells you about constantly seeking pleasure. It creates its own form of pain, not just the come down after the high, but a deeper, more persistent suffering. The inability to enjoy simple things, the constant craving for more, the anxiety when you can't get your fix. Sarah was a food addict, not to junk food, but to healthy food. She spent hours researching recipes, shopping for organic ingredients, and preparing elaborate meals. She thought she was being healthy, but food dominated her thoughts. She couldn't enjoy a simple meal. Everything had to be perfect, special, worthy of Instagram. When Sarah tried to eat normally, she felt empty and anxious. Food had become her primary source of dopamine. Without the ritual of planning, shopping, and preparing, she didn't know how to feel good. Her pursuit of pleasure through food had robbed her of the simple pleasure of eating. Real intimacy. The shopping addict can't enjoy what they have. The work addict can't enjoy rest. The social media addict can't enjoy solitude. The very thing you use for pleasure becomes the source of your pain. Dr. Lembke shares her own story of romance novel addiction. Yes, even reading can become addictive. She would stay up all night reading, neglecting her family and work. She told herself it was harmless, just books. But the compulsion, the hiding, the inability to stop, these were classic addiction symptoms. The content doesn't matter as much as the pattern, whether it's cocaine or cupcakes, gambling or gaming. The brain responds similarly. The behavior becomes compulsive. You lose control. You continue despite negative consequences. You experience withdrawal when you stop. Part 5. The dopamine deficit state. When you chronically overstimulate your dopamine system, you enter what Dr. Lembke calls a dopamine deficit state. Your baseline dopamine drops below normal. UF. Anxious, and irritable. Nothing feels good anymore. This isn't just a bad mood. It's a physiological state of depletion. Think of it like sunburn. A little sun feels good and produces vitamin D, but too much sun damages your skin. It becomes painful and sensitive. You have to avoid sun entirely while you heal. Your dopamine system works the same way. Overstimulation causes injury that requires time to heal. In this deficit state, you experience anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure. Food tastes bland. Music sounds flat. Sex feels mechanical. Achievements feel empty. You go through the motions of life without feeling alive. This is your brain's way of forcing you to stop and recover. But instead of resting, most people double down. They seek stronger stimulation to break through the numbness. This is like putting sunburned skin under a heat lamp. It only causes more damage. The solution isn't. He was addicted to the high of closing deals. Every sale triggered a massive dopamine rush, but over time, bigger deals produced smaller highs. He worked longer hours, took bigger risks, chased bigger wins. Nothing was enough. Eventually, Michael crashed. He couldn't get out of bed. Everything felt pointless. Success meant nothing. Money meant nothing. He had everything he'd ever wanted and felt nothing. This wasn't depression in the traditional sense. It was dopamine depletion from chronic overstimulation. Part 6, the 30-day dopamine fast. Dr. Lembke's primary prescription is radical but simple. Abstain from your drug of choice for 30 days. This allows your brain to reset its dopamine baseline. It's like rebooting a frozen computer. You have to turn it off completely before it can function properly again. This isn't easy. The first week is hell. Your brain screams for its fix. You feel restless, feels wrong. This is withdrawal, and it's proof of how dependent you've become. Week 2 is the danger zone. The acute withdrawal fades, but the boredom sets in. Without your usual dopamine sources, life feels empty and gray. This is when most people relapse. They convince themselves they've learned their lesson and can use moderately. They can't. Week 3 brings subtle changes. Colors seem brighter. Food tastes better. Sleep improves. You start feeling emotions you'd numbed for years. Some are pleasant, others painful. This is your brain recalibrating, learning to produce dopamine naturally again. By week 4, something magical happens. Simple pleasures return. A walk feels refreshing. A conversation feels engaging. A sunset looks beautiful. You're not high, you're normal. But normal feels extraordinary after being numb for so long. The 30 days isn't arbitrary. Brain imaging. This is true whether you're withdrawing from heroin or Instagram. The timeline is remarkably consistent. But here's the catch. You have to actually abstain, not just cut back. Moderation doesn't work during reset. It's like trying to quit smoking by only smoking a little. Every use restarts the withdrawal clock. You need complete abstinence for your brain to heal. Part 7, practical strategies for dopamine fasting. So how do you actually do a dopamine fast? First, identify your primary addiction. What do you turn to when you're stressed, bored, or sad? What feels impossible to give up for 30 days? That's your target. Create barriers between you and your drug of choice. If it's your phone, put it in another room at night. If it's junk food, don't keep it in the house. If it's shopping, cut up credit cards. Make accessing your addiction require effort and intention, not just impulse. Tell someone about your fast. Shame thrives in secrecy, but accountability provides. Join a support group if one exists for your issue. If not, find an accountability partner, someone who checks in daily and knows when you're struggling. Replace the dopamine source with natural alternatives. Exercise produces endorphins. Cold showers trigger norepinephrine. Meditation increases GABA. These won't feel as good initially, but they help manage withdrawal without causing addiction. Plan for discomfort. You will feel bad. This isn't failure, it's healing. Like physical therapy after injury, recovery hurts. Prepare comfort measures that don't involve dopamine. Hot baths, gentle walks, calming music, whatever soothes without stimulating. Track your progress with a journal. Write about cravings, emotions, and changes you notice. This serves two purposes. It gives your restless mind something to do, and it provides evidence of improvement when you want to quit. Beware of substitution. Your brain will try to replace one addiction with another. Quit alcohol and suddenly more sugar. Quit social media and suddenly you're shopping online. Stay vigilant about not simply switching dopamine sources. Part 8. The importance of pain. This might sound strange, but we need pain, not suffering or trauma, but the ordinary discomfort of daily life. Pain and pleasure exist in balance. When we eliminate all pain, we lose the capacity for pleasure. This is the paradox of our comfort-obsessed culture. Our ancestors experienced regular, unavoidable pain, physical labor, temperature extremes, hunger between meals, boredom without entertainment. These weren't pleasant, but they maintained the pleasure-pain balance. They made simple pleasures genuinely pleasurable. Modern life has eliminated most natural pain. Climate control keeps us comfortable. Food is always available. Entertainment is constant. We've created a pain-free existence, but it's making us miserable. Without natural pain, we lose natural pleasure. Dr. Lembke recommends deliberately introduce pain into your life. Cold showers, intense exercise, intermittent fasting, digital detoxes. These controlled challenges reset your pleasure-pain balance. They make ordinary life feel better by comparison. Consider exercise. It's physically uncomfortable, sometimes painful, but it produces a sustained mood boost that lasts hours or days. The pain comes first, then the pleasure. This is the opposite of addiction, where pleasure comes first, then pain. Ice baths have become popular for this reason. The initial shock is intensely uncomfortable, but afterward, you feel energized and euphoric. Your body releases endorphins to cope with the stress. You've earned your dopamine through discomfort, not stolen it through stimulation. This principle applies psychologically too. Facing difficult emotions, having hard conversations, doing tedious tasks, these forms of psychological pain build resilience and restore balance. Avoiding all discomfort makes you fragile. Embracing appropriate makes you strong. Part 9. Radical honesty as medicine. Dr. Lembke discovered something powerful in treating addicts. Radical honesty accelerates recovery. Not just admitting the addiction, but complete transparency about every lie, every hidden behavior, every shameful secret. This psychological pain paradoxically produces healing. Addiction thrives on secrecy and denial. Every lie creates distance from reality and others. You start with small deceptions, hiding how much you use, then bigger lies to cover consequences. Eventually, you're living a double life, exhausted from maintaining the facade. Truth-telling is painful but liberating. When you admit everything, you stop wasting energy on deception. You stop fearing discovery. You reconnect with reality and relationships. The shame loses its power when exposed to light. James was addicted to online gambling. He'd lost thousands, hidden debt from his wife, and stolen from his kids' college funds. The lies were eating eye. When he finally confessed everything, he expected his marriage to end. Instead, his honesty created space for healing. His wife was hurt and angry, but also relieved. She'd known something was wrong, but blamed herself. The truth, however painful, was better than the uncertainty. They could now face the problem together instead of him facing it alone. Radical honesty extends beyond admitting addiction. It means acknowledging triggers, admitting struggles, asking for help. It means telling your friend you can't go to the bar, telling your family you need support, telling yourself the truth about what you can and cannot control. This honesty must continue beyond initial recovery. Every small lie is a step toward relapse. Every truth is a step toward freedom. Recovery isn't just about abstaining from your drug. It's about living authentically without the need for escape. Part 10. The role of shame and self-compassion. Shame is addiction's best friend and worst enemy. It drives behavior by making you feel worthless. then prevents recovery by making you feel unredeemable. Understanding shame's dual role is crucial for breaking free. When you feel shame about who you are, not just what you've done, you seek escape. Addiction provides temporary relief from self-hatred, but the behavior creates more shame, driving more use. It's a vicious cycle that feeds itself. Yet shame also serves a purpose. It signals when we violated our values. Without any shame, we'd have no motivation to change. The key is transforming toxic shame into healthy guilt. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, I am bad. Guilt motivates change. Shame motivates escape. Dr. Lembke emphasizes self-compassion, not as excuse-making, but as realistic self-assessment. You're not uniquely weak or morally deficient. You're a human living in an addictive world, responding normally to abnormal circumstances. Pathetic and stupid. This self-hatred drove more shopping to escape the feelings. Only when she learned self-compassion could she face her behavior without needing to escape herself. Self-compassion doesn't mean avoiding responsibility. It means taking responsibility without self-attack. You acknowledge the harm you've caused yourself and others. You commit to change, but you do so as a flawed human, deserving of recovery, not a bad person deserving punishment. This shift changes everything. Instead of using to punish yourself, you abstain to care for yourself. Instead of recovery being penance, it becomes self-respect. Instead of white-knuckling through willpower, you're motivated by self-love. Part 11. Creating a balanced life. Recovery isn't just about removing addiction. It's about building a life you don't need to escape from. Basic self-care. Addiction disrupts sleep, nutrition, and exercise. These fundamentals must be restored. Regular sleep schedules, balanced meals, and daily movement aren't optional. They're the foundation everything else builds on. Develop meaningful relationships. Addiction is often called a disease of isolation. Even when surrounded by people, addicts feel alone. Recovery requires genuine connection, not just proximity. This means vulnerability, honesty, and presence. Everything addiction helped you avoid. Find purpose beyond pleasure. Viktor Frankl said happiness cannot be pursued, it must ensue. It's the byproduct of meaningful action. What matters to you beyond feeling good? What legacy do you want? What contribution can you make? Purpose provides sustainable fulfillment that pleasure-seeking never can. Create structure and routine. Addiction often develops in unstructured time. Boredom and aimlessness trigger use. Having regular schedules, commitments, and responsibility. Natural guardrails. Structure isn't restriction. It's freedom from constant decision-making. Develop healthy coping mechanisms. Stress, sadness, and anxiety are part of life. You need ways to manage them without escaping into addiction. Therapy, meditation, journaling, exercise, creative expression. Find what helps you process rather than avoid difficult emotions. Practice delayed gratification. In our instant everything world, waiting is a radical act. Save for purchases instead of buying immediately. Cook meals instead of ordering delivery. Read books instead of scrolling feeds. Each delay strengthens your ability to resist impulse. Part 12. The social dimension of recovery. Addiction is contagious, but so is recovery. The people around you profoundly influence your behavior. If everyone you know drinks heavily, not drinking seems abnormal. If everyone's on their phones constantly, digital detox seems extreme. This means recovery often requires social changes. You might distance yourself from people who enable your addiction. This isn't judgment, it's self-preservation. You can't recover in the environment that made you sick, but isolation isn't the answer. You need to find your tribe, people who support your recovery and model healthy behavior. This might mean support groups, new friendships, or different social activities. It definitely means honest conversations with those who matter. Tom discovered this when quitting video games. His entire social life revolved around gaming with friends. When he stopped playing, he lost those connections. The loneliness almost drove him back, but he found a hiking group, made new friends, and discovered social connection doesn't require a screen. Family dynamics often need addressing. Addiction affects everyone close to you. They've developed their own patterns around your behavior. As you change, they must adjust too. This can create tension, even when change is positive. Professional help might be necessary. Counselors and support groups provide expertise and community. There's no shame in needing help. Addiction is complex, involving brain chemistry, psychology, and social factors. Professional support addresses all dimensions. Online communities can help or harm. Recovery forums provide support and accountability. But be careful not to replace one online addiction with another. Virtual connection supplements but doesn't replace in-person relationships. Part 13. Navigating relapse and setbacks. Relapse is common, not because you're weak, but because addiction creates lasting brain changes. Neural pathways don't disappear. They become dormant, but can reactivate. Understanding this removes shame and improves recovery odds. The abstinence violation effect is real. One slip can trigger complete relapse, not because of the substance, but because of the shame spiral. You think I've already failed, so why not continue? This all or nothing thinking is dangerous. A lapse doesn't relapse. If you slip, respond immediately. Don't wait until tomorrow or Monday or New Year's. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes. Treat it like accidentally touching a hot stove. You don't keep your hand there because you've already been burned. Identify what triggered the lapse. Were you stressed? Lonely? Bored? Overconfident? Understanding triggers helps prevent future slips. Every relapse provides information if you're willing to learn rather than just shame yourself. Michael learned this through multiple attempts to quit porn. Each relapse taught him something. Late-night browsing was dangerous. Work stress was a trigger. Hotel rooms were high-risk environments. Eventually, he developed strategies for each situation. Don't go back to square one after a slip. If you abstained for 20 days, then used once, you're not at day 0. You're at day 21 with one slip. Progress isn't erased by imperfection. Recovery is a trend, not a straight line. Increase after a lapse. This is when you're most vulnerable to shame and continued use. Tell someone immediately. Attend an extra meeting. Schedule an emergency therapy session. Double down on recovery, not addiction. Part 14. Technology and modern challenges. Digital addiction deserves special attention because it's so normalized and unavoidable. You can live without alcohol or drugs. Try living without any technology. It's nearly impossible in modern society. This makes digital addiction uniquely challenging. The average person checks their phone 96 times daily. That's once every 10 minutes of waking hours. Each check potentially triggers dopamine. Your brain is constantly bathed in stimulation. No wonder we're anxious and unable to focus. Start with awareness. Track your usage honestly. Most phones now provide screen time data. The numbers will shock you. That harmless scrolling adds up to hours daily. Years over your lifetime. Time you'll never get back. Create phone-free and times. Bedrooms should be for sleep, not scrolling. Meals should be for eating and conversation, not content consumption. Mornings should begin with intention, not immediately checking notifications. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Every ding, buzz, and banner is designed to pull your attention. You don't need to know immediately when someone likes your photo or when there's a sale. Check on your schedule, not theirs. Use app blockers and time limits. Make accessing addictive apps require effort. Delete them from your phone if necessary. Use your computer for intentional use, not mindless browsing. Create friction between impulse and action. Practice the phone stat game when dining with others. Everyone stacks their phones in the center. First person to check pays the bill. This simple game reveals how powerful the compulsion has become. Consider a dumb phone for certain times. Having a basic phone for evenings or weekends removes temptation while maintaining communication. It's like an alcoholic keeping only non-alcoholic drinks at home. Part 15. The wisdom of constraints. Freedom isn't the absence of all limits. It's choosing the right constraints. Just as a river needs banks to flow, humans need boundaries to thrive. Self-imposed constraints aren't weakness, they're wisdom. Dr. Lembke calls these self-binding strategies, inspired by Odysseus tying himself to the mast to resist the sirens. You constrain your future self while your present self is strong. You make good choices easier and bad choices harder. Financial constraints work. Automatic savings, spending limits, and cash-only budgets prevent impulsive purchases. You can't spend money you don't have access to. The constraint protects you from yourself. Time constraints help. Scheduled obligations prevent endless scrolling or binging. When you have somewhere to be, you can't lose entire days to addiction. Structure commitments create accountability. When others expect you somewhere, you're more likely to show up. When others know your goals, you're more likely to achieve them. Physical constraints are powerful. If you struggle with night eating, brush your teeth after dinner. If you shop compulsively online, don't save credit card information. If you drink too much, don't keep alcohol at home. These constraints aren't admissions of weakness. They're acknowledgments of humanity. Everyone has limited willpower. Smart people don't rely on willpower alone. They design their environment to support their goals. Part 16, Finding Flow and Natural Highs. Not all dopamine is problematic. The issue isn't pleasure itself, but empty pleasure, stimulation without satisfaction. The solution isn't eliminating all rewards, but finding healthy, sustainable sources of fulfillment. Flow states provide natural highs without addiction risk. When you're fully absorbed in challenging, meaningful activity, produces dopamine sustainably. You feel energized and focused without depletion. The activity is its own reward. Creative pursuits generate flow. Writing, painting, music, crafting, anything that requires skill and produces something tangible. The process engages you completely. The result provides lasting satisfaction. Unlike consumption, creation doesn't lead to tolerance. Physical challenges create natural highs. Running, climbing, dancing, martial arts, anything that pushes your limits safely. The discomfort comes first, then the reward. This sequence prevents addiction while building resilience. Learning stimulates dopamine healthily. Mastering new skills, understanding complex topics, solving difficult problems. Your brain rewards genuine growth and understanding. Unlike passive consumption, active learning enhances rather than depletes you. Service and contribution provide deep satisfaction. Helping others, volunteering, larger than yourself. The rewards are meaningful and lasting, not empty and fleeting. Nature offers restoration without overstimulation. Hiking, gardening, birdwatching, stargazing. Natural environments regulate your nervous system. They provide beauty and wonder without the aggressive stimulation of artificial entertainment. Part 17. The neuroscience of habit change. Understanding how habits form helps you change them. Every habit has three components: cue, routine, and reward. Addiction is an extreme habit where the reward system has been hijacked. Recovery requires rewiring these patterns. Cues trigger automatic behavior. For an alcoholic, driving past a bar is a cue. For a phone addict, any moment of boredom is a cue. You can't eliminate all cues, but you can change your response to them. The routine is the behavior itself. This is what we typically focus on changing. But willpower alone rarely works because the cue-reward loop remains intact. Rewards reinforce behavior. In addiction, the reward is dopamine, but also escape, numbness, or temporary relief. Recovery requires finding alternative rewards that satisfy the same underlying need. Habit replacement works better than elimination. Instead of checking your phone when bored, do 5 push-ups. Instead of eating when stressed, take 3 deep breaths. The new routine must address the same need the addiction was serving. Implementation intentions help. These are if-then plans made in advance. If I feel the urge to use, then I will call my sponsor. If I'm tempted to browse shopping sites, then I will close my laptop and go for a walk. Planning responses in advance makes them more likely. Environmental design shapes behavior. Make good habits easier and bad habits harder. Keep workout clothes visible and junk food hidden. Use website blockers and app limits. Your environment should support your intentions, not sabotage them. Small wins build momentum. Try to change everything at once. Start with one small, consistent change. Success builds confidence and identity. You become someone who makes good choices, one choice at a time. Part 18. The recovery identity. Recovery isn't just about changing behavior. It's about changing identity. You're not trying to stop using. You're becoming someone who doesn't use. This shift from action to identity is transformative. Every choice reinforces identity. When you decline a drink, you become someone who doesn't drink. When you put down your phone, you become someone present. Small actions accumulate into self-concept. Language matters. Instead of, "I can't have that," say, "I don't do that." Can't implies restriction and desire. Don't implies choice and identity. You're not deprived, you're empowered. Share your new identity publicly. Tell people you don't drink, don't use social media, or whatever your change is. Public declaration makes it real. It also find role models who embody your desired identity. Successful recovery stories prove it's possible. They provide roadmaps and inspiration. You're not pioneering. You're following a path others have walked. Celebrate identity-consistent choices. Every time you act according to your new identity, acknowledge it, not with rewards that spike dopamine, but with recognition of alignment between values and actions. Accept that identity change takes time. You might not feel like a non-user initially. That's okay. Identity follows behavior. Act as if you're the person you want to become, and eventually, you will be. Part 19. Meditation and mindfulness. Dr. Lembke emphasizes meditation as crucial for recovery, not as spiritual practice necessarily, but as brain training. Meditation teaches you to observe thoughts and feelings without immediately reacting. This space between stimulus and response is where recovery hides. And focus on breathing. When thoughts arise, notice them without judgment and return to breath. This simple practice builds the mental muscle of non-reactivity. Urge surfing is a specific technique for cravings. When you feel the urge to use, observe it like a wave. Watch it build, crest, and eventually subside. Don't fight it or feed it. Just observe. Cravings always pass if you don't act on them. Body scan meditation increases awareness. Start at your toes and slowly move attention up your body. Notice sensations without trying to change them. This practice connects you to your physical self, often neglected during addiction. Walking meditation provides moving mindfulness. Walk slowly, feeling each step. Notice your surroundings without judgment. This is especially helpful when sitting still feels impossible. Common during withdrawal. Loving kindness meditation addresses shame. Direct compassion toward yourself and others. Start with yourself, then loved ones, then cruel people, then difficult people. This practice softens the self-hatred that fuels addiction. Mindfulness isn't about emptying your mind or feeling peaceful. It's about awareness and acceptance. You're training your brain to observe rather than react, to choose rather than compulse. Part 20. The bigger picture. Addiction isn't just a personal problem. It's a societal issue requiring collective response. We've created a world that promotes addiction, then blames individuals for succumbing. This needs to change. Schools should teach about dopamine and addiction early. Children need to understand how their brains work before tech companies and drug dealers exploit them. Education is prevention. Companies must be held accountable for deliberately creating addictive products. Cigarette companies were eventually regulated. Tech companies and food manufacturers need similar oversight. Addiction by design should be illegal. Systems need to treat addiction as the brain disease it is, not a moral failing. Insurance should cover treatment fully. Doctors should be trained in addiction medicine. Recovery should be accessible to everyone. Communities need to provide connection and purpose. Loneliness and meaninglessness drive addiction. Strong communities with shared activities and values provide natural protection against addiction. Families need support and education. Addiction affects everyone in the family system. Parents need to model healthy behavior and create balanced homes. Children need structure and connection, not just entertainment. We need cultural shift around pleasure and pain. The idea that we should feel good all the time is toxic. Discomfort is part of life. Struggle builds strength. These truths need to replace the happiness obsession. Through the landscape of modern addiction, from understanding dopamine to practical recovery strategies. The message is clear. We're not broken for struggling with compulsive behaviors in an addictive world, but we're also not helpless. Recovery starts with awareness. Understanding how your brain works, why you're vulnerable, and what you're really seeking. Knowledge removes shame and empowers change. You're not fighting yourself. You're working with your biology. The path forward requires courage. Courage to face discomfort, to be honest, to ask for help, to change relationships and routines. It's not easy, but it's possible. Millions have walked this path before you. Remember, you're not aiming for a pleasure-free life. You're seeking balance. Real joy comes from meaningful engagement with life, not constant stimulation.